Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our supervisor, Madam Intan, Syahriza binti Azizan, and our beloved panels. For this Viva presentation, we are going to present our research proposal entitled The Adoption of E-Wallets Among Youth in Ipoh, Perak. Before we go further, allow me to introduce ourselves first.
My name is Mohanieza Binti Mos.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurr binti Khaisul Mahdi.
So, this is our overview in this research proposal.
Moving on to research background. Academic activity in today's era is largely done digitally around the world, including Malaysia, which has resulted in a shift in academic activity. According to Bernama, Malaysia government has introduced academic digitalized by under 12 Malaysian Plan, and it also was known as Rancangan Malaysia ke-12. And this plan was made under National Development Policy with the continuance from previous policy, which is New Economic Policy, that was aimed to focus on reforming economic activity to digitalize. And to strengthen the plan, government has implemented e-wallet system in year 2019. And to foster this system, the government has used it as a cashless culture toward the community. And this is because e-wallet can be undeniable has given the ease for user by making payment using mobile application. We don't need to bring cash or card back. According to Ye 2021, e-wallet was known as software application that being used in smartphone, and this application works same as a physical wallet that can store money, debit card, credit card, and bank account information in the form of digital application. And the example of e-wallet platform that has been introduced in Malaysia is Touch and Go e-wallet, GrabPay, ShopeePay, and so on. Next, we're moving on to problem statement. Many researchers have empirical investigating the fundamental factors that contribute to the mobile payments. Koenig-Lewis 2015 examining the general use of mobile payment among young users has found factors such as perceived usefulness and social influence to be among the important prediction for the e-wallet. And in another study by Thakur and Srivastava 2014, factors such as technological setup, innovative personality, and perceived risk were found to have a significant association with the intention to use e-wallet. Therefore, studies related to the use of e-wallet have been carried out specific instruction based on the type of payment platform of e-wallet. As Moroni, Talamu, and Dimitri 2015 also say, delve into those factors influencing the intention to use e-wallet with findings that shows perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, perceived security, and social influence to be an important predictor of e-wallet use. As a result, the purpose of this research is to identify the most significant factors that influence the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak. This is because the use of these e-wallets can be clearly seen exposed to the community in the use of application which is closely related to digital development, and it also aims to see if these independent variables correlate with dependent variables. There are 6 questions for this study, which is the first one, what is the level of the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? The second, what is the relationship between perceived usefulness and adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? And the third question, what is the relationship between perceived ease of use and the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? And the fourth question, what is the relationship between perceived security and the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? And the fifth question, what is the relationship between social influence and adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? And the last question is, what are the most significant factors that contributing to that influence the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak? Now we're moving on to the research objective. There are also 6 different objectives that was aimed for this study, which is the first one is to identify the level of the adoption of e-wallet, and the second one is to determine the relationship between the perceived usefulness and the adoption of e-wallet, and the third one is to examine the relationship between the perceived ease of use and adoption of e-wallet, and the fourth is to examine the relationship between the perceived security and adoption of e-wallet. And for the fifth objective is to examine the relationship between the social influence and adoption of e-wallet, and the last objective is to identify the most significant factors that influence the adoption of e-wallets.
Moving on to chapter 2, in this research study, we are applying technology acceptance model, which is TAM. TAM is a short name for technology acceptance model that was introduced by Davis 1986. This model was used to show and explain the user of acceptance behavior by Kim Cheong Ma 2004. It can be understood as a theory of social psychological that explains in general. This model was indicating the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use that include attitude, behavioral intentions to use. For the purposes of security and social influence, it is just the extension of the model itself, the implement of the other researcher theory to measure the behavior that can be related to the technology. From this theory, we are able to identify 4 variables that will be used as independent variables as stated in the conceptual framework in the slide. This is our hypothesis for the research study.
Now, we're moving on to the methodology that being used in this study. The first is research design. In this research, researcher has used quantitative method for research design through the questionnaire in collecting the data. The second is unit of analysis, and the unit of analysis for this research is focused on the youth in Ipoh, Perak. And the third is sample size. The sample size that has been used for this study is 357 respondents that equal to 5,000 people in Ipoh, Perak based on Crazy and Morgan 1970. The aim was focused on youth that can be categorized to 3 different types of age, which is 15 to 20 years old, 21 to 30 years old, and 31 to 40 years old. And the fourth is sampling technique. And this study used simple random sampling. For sampling technique, it gives the researcher the chance to do the data analysis and reduce the margin of error data that has been collected. And the fifth is measurement of the questionnaire. In this questionnaire, it has divided into 6 sections, which is social demographic, on 1 dependent section, which is the adoption of e-wallet, and 4 independent sections such as perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, perceived security, and social influence. And the 6th is data collection. The research will carry out based on the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh, Perak. As you can see in the slide, we have done pilot study to 30 respondents to see whether the question that being used is reliable to be done in the study.
Proceed with chapter 4 and 5. First is about profile of respondent, which is include gender, age, race, educational background, and types of e-wallet platform that can be seen in the slide. For the RO1, it is to identify the level of the adoption of e-wallet. This research was represented by 5 questions, and each question has been measured by Likert scale, which is strongly disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. The researcher can conclude from the questions that the majority of the respondents agree that e-wallet give benefit to people with the highest mean, which is 4.73. This finding was supported by Chu Jiayi, Li Yinwan, Lim Chia Chuan, and Wong Chi Yi 2020, where previous researchers indicated the tangible benefit provided in using downloading e-wallet, such as discount, reward, cashback that foster positive attitude and increase their adoption in the use of e-wallet. The statement also was supported with the highest mean value, which is 4.31. Next is RO2 is to determine the relationship between perceived of usefulness and adoption of e-wallet. This is where the perceived usefulness and adoption of e-wallet are related. Based on this study, there is significant value in perceived usefulness and adoption of e-wallet are equal to 0.882. They indicated the result of linear positive relationship. The finding was supported by Liu 2016 has stated that certain study that has been done show that when using online payment method like e-payment, e-wallet, and e-banking user behavior has significant influence by perceived usefulness, while another study also has discovered a strong relationship between perceived usefulness and adoption of e-wallet. Followed with RO3, it is to determine the relationship between perceived ease of use and adoption of e-wallet. This is to see whether perceived ease of use and adoption of e-wallet are related. Based on the study, there is significant value in perceived ease of use and adoption of e-wallet are equal to 0.900. The indicated result of linear positive relationship. The finding was supported by Othman 2021, has stated that perceived ease of use refer to the freedom, complications, and challenges.
The fourth objective for this research is to examine the relationship between the perceived of security and adoption of e-wallet. This is to see whether perceived security and adoption of e-wallet are related. Based on the study, there is significant value in perceived security and adoption of e-wallet, with the R value is 0.787 that indicate the result of linear positive relationship. And this finding was supported by Moradi 2013 that has stated perceived security has a positive relationship with customer behavior towards the e-wallet, while according to Anup Kumar 2018 stated that perceived security is a major indicator that leads to the adoption of e-wallet. The fifth objective for this research is to examine the relationship between social influence and adoption of e-wallet. This is to see whether social influence and adoption of e-wallet are related. Based on the study, there is significant value in social influence and adoption of e-wallet with the R value of 0.863 that indicate the result of linear positive relationship, and this finding was supported by Simon Megadewanandu 2017 has stated social influence has a positive effect on customer behavior when it comes to adoption of e-wallet. The last objective for this research is to identify the most significant factors that influence the adoption of e-wallet. And in this research, there are 4 different variables that have been measured, which is perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, perceived security, and social influence. The most significant factors that influence the adoption of e-wallet is perceived ease of use that has the highest beta standardized coefficient, which is 0.492, while other variables such as perceived usefulness has beta standardized coefficient, which is 0.250, and social influence has a beta standardized coefficient, which is 0.173, and perceived security has the lowest beta standardized coefficient, which is 0.024, and this finding was supported by Zuhaili Osman and Leong Yun Yi 2021 has stated that perceived ease of use has the strongest relationship with adoption of e-wallet.
Proceed to research implication. It gives a benefit to the consumer. This is because perceived ease of use is most prominent factors that influencing the adoption of e-wallet among youth in Ipoh Perak. It is also stated that e-wallet really help the consumer to become proficient in using the method and making transaction. For the research limitation, it has stated in the slide. The first one is inability to control the situation. As a result, the researcher finding is constraint and limit. The respondent may simply select and choose the answer without carefully read the questions. It will give and provide inaccurate data and information to the researcher. This is also impacting the study's output. For the second limitation is limited respondent. This may contribute to the less of respondent in certain age. To the first stage, it's categorized in 15 to 20 years old. For the second stage, it's from 21 to 30 years old. And for the last stage, it's 31 to 40 that show come from the elderly. However, during the research process, most of the respondents that easily get the response come from the younger, which is second categories, that get the half between other categories, and become difficult when it comes to the third category, which is from age of 31 to 40 years old. This is because more of them not adapting with a new payment system. However, for the recommendation for the first limitation is provide more time. In this research, the researcher is supposed to provide more time to respondent in answering the questionnaire. By giving enough time, it will help the researcher to collect better data for the research. This is because most of the respondent might have a difficult time in understanding this question and to read the question carefully. The researcher should allow the respondent to answer this questionnaire within a few days to complete that questions. This happens because when they are in rushing situation, they will answer randomly without read carefully on the questionnaire, and it will make them to get the understanding. Secondly is making variety of the approach. For this research study, it can be recommended to make a variety of approach. In this situation, online data collection has some weaknesses and limitations in this study. This is because the online approach is more suitable for the youngster and not suitable for the eldest one. This has given them a limitation in understanding the questions and the use of technology in answering the questionnaire. Because of this, it makes it hard for the researcher to collect their data. However, to solve this problem, the researcher can create a variety of approach toward the elders by making face-to-face approach and give them device to answer the questions. Then the researcher can act as a guidance for the eldest people to help them answering and collecting the data. As a conclusion, this study is conducted and located in one location, which is Ipoh Perak. The total of the respondents is about 357 respondents. To examine the relationship among variables are using correlation analysis in this study. From the investigation, all of the 4 independent variables are significantly connected to the factor that influence to the adoption of e-wallet among youth. Perceived ease of use is the influential factor that between the other independent variable in using multiple regression. This is due to the fact that in Ipoh Perak, it has a strong positive relationship between perceived ease of use and adoption of e-wallet. Based on the finding of this investigation, the majority of the youth in Ipoh Perak are preferred perceived ease of use. This is because they believe that this application is simple and not overly confusing for them. The researcher also recommend providing time and making a variety of approach from respondent to get high decision on the factors. Many factors need to measure in order to obtain the valuable on research finding.
This is our reference for our study.